Hi, I'm Dr. LeGrand, and today we're going to be talking about basically when you have gotten a diagnosis as an adult, or if you're an adult that has ADHD and you don't know exactly what to do next. I find this is more common today that, especially during the pandemic, I feel like a lot of people, especially adults, have gotten diagnosed with ADHD. I think it's one of the most growing diagnoses right now, as far as within all different age groups of ADHD. It seems like adults is the biggest one. And because people are coming and living at home, and whether they're with their loved ones or their spouse, and they realized, oh my goodness, maybe you have ADHD, you should go get it checked out, because they were living at home and realized they had all these other symptoms. So that was a big thing, and so we're going to dive let's go ahead and just get right into it. So, very first thing, when it comes to there's really good I'm going to cover five big things. So when it comes to ADHD, and specifically for adults, one of the biggest things for me, because I actually didn't get diagnosed with ADHD until I was in college. So I was like in my early 20s, knew I had it as a child, but didn't really get diagnosed until I was in college, when it started becoming, a big problem, especially in college. And the very first thing that I had to realize, and I think this is really important when you get diagnosed as an adult, is, being okay to ask for help. I think because as adults, we have a hard time asking for help, and we think that we should try to solve everything on our own. But you really need to take it to, if you really want to address your ADHD. And I'm not just talking about like just going and getting diagnosed and seeking help by a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Like, that's definitely really important. I'm talking about like asking for help from, people that you could seek out for, such as mentors, coaches, ADHD coaches, anybody that can help you in this area. If you are having challenges with your ADHD and you just found out about this, is being okay to ask for help, because this is what made a big difference for me, especially when I found out in my college years, in my early adulthood, of someone that already knew what I was going through and knew how to help me with all the challenges I was dealing with my ADHD. And so by doing so, it really just helped me push through college and push through medical school, and also just with life in general. And even other mentors I have, like running a business with having ADHD that has its challenges in itself as well. I still rely on coaches and mentors and pay for coaches and mentors to help me in these challenges that I deal with. The other thing is definitely be okay to ask for accommodations. So if you're an adult in college, be okay to ask your teacher for accommodations. I had to do this, and sometimes we might be embarrassed to really ask for accommodations. But what we have to realize is, if we don't ask for accommodations, it doesn't hurt to ask. And for example, I used to ask my teacher, because in a big classroom when we take tests, it'd be so noisy and distracting that I would tend to do poor, because I had test anxiety. And so I'd ask the teacher if I could take the test in his office, maybe a different day. And a lot of cases, the teacher was usually willing to do that. And so it doesn't hurt to really ask for accommodations when it comes to things like this, but also in the work environment. And I know a lot of people are scared to like mention to the boss that they have ADHD, but you'd be surprised how more accepting it has come over the years, especially over the pandemic, when we're seeing more of these diagnoses. And it isn't necessarily like, hey, can you just allow me to be lazy or anything like that. It's more about like, hey, look, these are the challenges that I'm dealing with right now, as far as when it comes to my work. And my ADHD kind of hinders me doing this. Can I have a different kind of work environment, and where you might be able to be more productive and more efficient, and that is a win-win for both you and your boss, and also for you. So it doesn't hurt to ask for accommodations. And then on top of that is definitely, when you find out about your diagnosis, especially as an adult, is to educate your loved ones, your spouse, your partner, whoever. And then of course, family members, even, close friends. And I know a lot of you do not like having to, and I've seen this a lot, is a lot of people don't like to ask, or not ask, but like tell their loved ones that they actually have ADHD. And because it's a new thing and they're embarrassed by it. But trust me, if you start really educating, you don't necessarily even say you have ADHD. You could just educate the challenges that you do have. And by doing so, that will help you resolve a lot of conflicts, especially amongst your partners and loved ones, because if you don't educate them, they have no idea the challenges that you're dealing with. And it might be showing them some educational videos around it, and also really just taking that time of how your brain works. And I understand you're trying to figure out how your brain works, but the more that you learn about your brain and actually communicating that to your loved ones, you will find that you'll have that support more versus trying to go out going at it alone. So, the reason I stress this so much is if you do not seek for the help, especially if you're not even seeking help from a psychologist or psychiatrist or doctor to be treating this, people with ADHD on average will spend over $200,000 in their lifetime. And that's above what the neurotypical person pays for medical expenses. So, whatever your other medical conditions are of an average neurotypical person gets and what they spend, this is above that. And so you definitely don't want to have to spend so much money in your lifetime because you're not seeking for the help. And that is a big one. Now, the second thing that I had to realize when I got diagnosed with ADHD, also, are you guys getting value out of this? If you guys could put it in the chat real quick, if you guys can hear me and see me. I know we got quite a few people on here. I just want to chime in, making sure that people can hear me and see me. All right. So the next thing is the big thing for me that my realization was to really stop, not to just stop at just your ADHD diagnosis. Because when you just stop at your ADHD diagnosis, you say, okay, I got ADHD, there's a lot more under the hood that are problems that I see that are not just your ADHD. And if they're not addressed, there's going to be more problems that actually exacerbate a lot of your ADHD symptoms because they're not addressed. So, really, on top of that, okay, thank you, Donald and Miss Love. You guys can hear me great. Thanks for letting me know. But one of the things I always emphasize is definitely approach your ADHD health at all angles of your body's health. So, what do I mean by this? You have to realize that health is more than just our brain, especially when it comes to our ADHD health. There could be digestive problems, which, the gut brain connection is really important. The environmental toxins that we're exposed to every day, if we're not preventing and actually making lifestyle changes to prevent that, there's also stress. There's also things such as like thyroid issues. There's hormone imbalances. There's all these things that can contribute to causing our exacerbation of our ADHD, especially as adults, because as we get older and older and you're hitting your mid 40s, 50s, and 60s, guess what? If you don't address those health concerns and you're only focused on just the ADHD part of it, it's like you're going against an uphill battle because every time you're trying to solve things with ADHD and you're not addressing everything else, it just gets worse and worse. So you feel like you're getting nowhere. So it's really important to address all those things when it comes to your ADHD health, is looking at the overall picture of your whole body. And so how do you do this? You've heard me guys talk about this. Now, if you're new here, I do talk a lot about doing extensive lab testing. And I'm not just talking about standard, lab panels. I'm talking about doing extensive lab testing where you're looking at micronutrients, a full micronutrient panel, looking at your neurotransmitters, looking at all the different hormone balances that you could possibly have, looking at allergies, looking at, digestive panels that can look at your gut microbiome, all these things that can give you more extensive information to understand your body as a whole, of where are the imbalances as your body as a whole, so you know exactly what to tackle and implement. It's something that I do with all my clients. So the other thing is also focus on the triangle of health. So let me explain what the triangle of health is. So there's definitely, like, I think, three big components when it comes to overall health. And if we're talking about, ADHD health, so your ADHD, there's definitely the physical part. So this could be possibly some brain damage if we're talking about like the physical part, but it also could be other ailments and damage physically in your body that can exacerbate your ADHD. Okay. Then there is the physiological biochemical. So looking at all the body chemistry, the brain chemistry, seeing where the imbalances is, where the extensive lab testing really comes in handy to understand under the hood of what's going on. So you can understand you as an individual of where the imbalance is going on there. And then, of course, this one's stressed a lot within ADHD, but it's definitely very, very important, is looking at the mental, emotional, and spiritual side of things. So obviously seeing a counselor, psychologist that helps on the mental, emotional stuff and mindset. But sometimes if you don't address, well, not even just sometimes, all the time, if you're not addressing all three of them, and you're only addressing just on the mental, emotional, the psychological part of it, and you have all these imbalances in the physiological, biochemical stuff, it's hard to implement the strategies. It's hard to implement the things that your coaches and your counselors or even the courses that you're taking to implement because you haven't addressed the biological and the physiological side of things or even the physical elements if that's also a possibility. If you don't address those, it's going to be very difficult to implement everything else as far as brain hacks and strategies. And that's why it's so important to look at the triangle health of looking at all aspects. Okay. So the other thing is also number three that I had to realize this was a big one is not dwelling on the past. And, I got diagnosed in my early 20s. And sure, for a while, I was thinking, oh, I wish I would have known this sooner. I think if I could have gotten this treated sooner, maybe I wouldn't have dealt with all these challenges with school that I've been dealing with. If only, if only. And I'll tell you, by dwelling on the past, it's not going to do anything for you. I think what I had to realize is like, okay, now that I know this, what am I going to do with it now? How am I going to solve this now? And I read up on as much information about this even before I knew about my diagnosis because I knew I had the challenges. And I tested out lots of different strategies, especially when it came to study tactics to be able to implement that are not just your neurotypical type of study tactics, but ones that were a little bit more creative and be able to work with my own ADHD brain. And then on top of that, moving, when it came to other life changes, becoming married, becoming, having relationships and being a father. Also, in the work environment, how to implement those things. And it really came down to some things as far as to help me there is definitely focusing on the present of what we can do and trying to gather the knowledge. And like I talked about before, is seeking for help. And so those are things that I did is I had to seek for others that knew the knowledge so that I can understand about my body, my brain chemistry, so that I knew exactly what to do. And by doing so, that made a big difference. And it was a long process, trying to figure this out on my own. And, I had doctors that helped me and different testing, and it definitely was really helpful, especially before my medical boards to understand all the imbalances in my body chemistry, and I didn't even know I could do these testing. And it made a big impact of understanding what I needed to do as far as to take the lifestyle changes, but things to actually implement and take to be able to change those body chemistry and brain chemistry. But it's certainly, and of course, going through medical school really helped me understand a lot more about myself and just the continuing education. And yeah, I spent probably well over $500,000 in just medical school education, continuing education. But it definitely it doesn't require for you to do that. It's seeking for someone that actually has the knowledge already, has already gone down the path, and having them set the path for you and giving you that information. And so that is something that I realized probably later than sooner. But I'm telling you now, like if you do that, can do this sooner, it can save you a lot of money. Something you don't have to like go through. Now, obviously, I wanted to go to medical school, but I felt like I had to just understand my brain. So the next thing is really number four is about accepting that you can't, do everything perfectly. When we get diagnosed with HD as an adult, I think we get down on ourselves a lot, thinking that we have to do everything perfectly like a neurotypical person. But guess what? ADHD is a part of who we are. It isn't something that needs to be cured because HD is who we are. Now, it comes with a lot of challenges, but I will tell you there's also some upsides of it as well that I have found that for me, when I know how to put myself in the zone, I could be hyper focused on something and work hours on end and be really efficient with that and be really good at it. But then there's those things that I'm not good at, and I have to accept that. And by accepting that and trying to, beat your head over a board and realize, why can't I do this? Why can't I be really good with replying back to emails? Why can't I be really good about texting back, on time? Why can't I be good, organizing or being really detailed oriented? Guess what? That's not who you are. And the sooner you accept that, the better you're going to be off because you got to understand what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. The sooner you can kind of realize that, because once you understand what your weaknesses are, is, you know, then you can actually accept being okay, someone else to do that is better than you, right? Sometimes it's hard, especially as adults, adults having ADHD, having it's harder for us to accept that someone is going to be better than us in these areas. And that's okay because you need to double down on what you're good at. because the sooner you can do that, the sooner you can accept that you are good at something and you need to double down on that, then you delegate the rest. This is especially for business owners. Something been realizing more and more that there's certain things I'm just not good at and never will be really good at, and that's okay. I find somebody else that's really good at and delegate them to do it so that I can focus on what I'm really good at. And you could even still do this with if you work for somebody. And this is when you find more and more about what your strengths and weaknesses are. So accepting jobs or applying for jobs that are within your strengths and not accepting jobs that are weaknesses to you. And this is where it comes back to communication with your boss or even loved ones, be able to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. And then a big one all the time, and I hear this a lot, is stop caring about being understood and instead care about surprising people. And I learned this probably more when I was in college because as a kid, yeah, I got in trouble a lot. A lot of my, church leaders and, my parents' friends thought, I wouldn't amount to much. Because I had challenges. I wasn't really good at school. I didn't learn how to read and write until I was almost 9. Um, and I had younger siblings that could read and write before me. And I used to care a lot of what people thought of me, and I wanted just them to understand my challenges. But further I focused on just me of what I could do instead of worrying about what others thought about me, the faster I got results. And as soon as I started doing that, I then started surprising people. People never thought would go through to college or even get through college. And people never thought I would actually, for sure, never go to medical school and actually become a doctor. That was a big surprise for people. And those people who doubted me before, it's more of an inspiration for them. Um, but you should even care about that. Focus on you. And the more on you focus on you and what you need to do now and just you and not worrying about what everybody else is thinking, you will make big changes in your life and have a more fulfilled life and successful life if you do that. That is probably the biggest thing I could tell you for sure is stop caring of what other people think and trying to be understood. Instead, try to surprise people by focusing on you and what you can actually improve upon. Okay. Now, number 5, this is something I tell a lot of my clients and my patients, and something I definitely focus on for myself is definitely continuing on the lifestyle changes that you need to continuously focus on. And that is always doing exercise, regular exercise, focusing on good nutrition. I always tell my patients and clients apply the 80-20% rule. 80% of the time, try to focus on good nutrition, good foods to eat in your body. 20% of the time, eat whatever you want. Food is here to enjoy. I'm not asking you to eat some crazy diet because you want to do something that you're going to do lifelong, right? You want a lifestyle diet. You want a lifestyle change. And that is when you have to kind of realize, yeah, 20% of the time, going to eat things that whatever I care, what I want to eat. And then 80% of the time, eat the foods that I know are going to good for my HD health. And then hydration. I think this is a really important thing because the brain needs water, hydration. All those things are really important. And then, of course, eliminating stressors in your life. Guess what? We got a lot of stressors in our life. And if we don't remove the toxic stressors that are in our life, it's going to prevent us from really moving on forward. And so we definitely need to focus on that. And then sleep. Definitely good quality sleep is going to impact your ADHD health. And so these are the 5 areas that I'm always constantly, because if you want to stop having to take so many different supplements or stop having to take even in some cases, medications or so many different medications. You focus on those 5 things and really double down on that. You'll find you will not have to take those things so much and probably not have to take them all together. And so that's what I always tell my patients, that those are things you have to definitely focus on. Okay. So let me know, did you guys find this helpful as far as when it comes to adult ADHD, being diagnosed, knowing what you need to do next? Put that into chat if you found this helpful. And if you are new here, just coming onto this channel, welcome. I'm Dr. LeGrand, and if you have not subscribed, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, because we are going to do these live streams weekly, as well as upload new videos weekly as well. So on top of that, if you are seeking for additional help from me and you are having challenges with your ADHD and want further help from me directly, then you could book a consultation with me. It's a $750 value. It's a one-on-one 45-minute definitely consultation with me. And then on top of that, sorry, my phone. Okay. And on top of that, you also will submit for a questionnaire. And this is something you'll do before. Once you book the consultation, then you'll also do an extensive questionnaire. So I can look over that before our consultation. And then also, if you have any previous labs, you'll definitely submit those to me. If you have any previous labs in the last 2 years, it's not a requirement, but I can look at those and interpret those if those have not been interpreted for you. And then on top of that, if you do today, it's only available, if you do it during the live stream, is you get access to my HD health course. It's a $297 value. And so everything included is $1,494, but you get it all for just $197. And so if you want to take advantage of this great deal, all you got to do is click the link in the description below to book that consultation with me and get access to everything I just mentioned. And then, if you really want to be in control of your HD symptoms without relying on the medications and have an optimally focused mind and get a customized plan for success and see if working together will get you even better results, then this is for you. So once you click on the link in the description below, then it'll take you to this page. You'll purchase the consultation. Once you've complete the purchase, it'll take you to this page. You'll pick a date and time. There should be morning, afternoon, late afternoon, and even evening times, depending on your time zone. If there is no availability that you could see that works for you, then just email me at that email that's on the landing page there. And then you'll fill out your information, what you're coming in for. And then it will take you to this thank you page. Make sure to check your email once you book the call, because in there we'll have the Zoom link. And then also it will give you a link, another email to an invite to Practice Better, which is our client portal. So you want to make sure to activate your account, because that's where you'll fill out the client questionnaire, the in-depth questionnaire that I need to look at beforehand. And that's also where you're going to upload your previous labs as well. So make sure to do that if you have any previous labs that I need to look for. And then, of course, make sure to block out 45 minutes to 60 minutes. Sometimes we'll go 60 minutes if we need to, depending on how many questions you do have, and then make sure to show up early. So all you got to do is click in the link description below if you want to take the advantage of this great offer, booking a consultation with me for just $197. Thank you guys for attending. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next live stream. Thanks. Bye.